Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
What is the law if one accidentally recited the wrong blessing by his Aliyah either prior or after the reading? For example, if prior to the start of the reading, instead of him saying the correct blessing of Asher Bachar Banu by his Aliyah, he stated the blessing of Asher Nasan Lanu, or vice versa, if at the conclusion of his Aliyah, instead of saying the blessing of Asher Nasan Lanu, he said the blessing of Asher Bachar Banu, what is to be done, and what laws are pertinent to the congregation and those around him regarding correcting him? The question that is asked is the before and after blessing specific that it can only be said and is only valid when said prior and post the reading? Meaning Asher Bachar Banu can only be valid when said before the reading, and Asher Nasan Lanu can only be valid when said after the reading? Or is it flexible and can they be interchanged? Likewise, is it valid if only one blessing, meaning the same blessing, was said for both before and after the Aliyah, such as when said Asher Bachar Banu both before the Aliyah and after the Aliyah, or when said Asher Nasan Lanu before the Aliyah and after the Aliyah? So practically in the Poskim we find a variety of approaches and opinions in this matter, with some being more flexible than others. And the following is the final ruling on this matter as recorded in the Magen Avram, the Mishnah Brura, and the Ktsois HaShulchan. Everyone agrees that if you remember that you are reciting the wrong blessing prior to concluding it with the saying of Hashem's name, then since you are able to fix it, you are required to fix it. And people around him should pay attention and remind the Oila and correct him if he begins saying the wrong blessing, that he should say the correct one. So if, for example, prior to the reading he began saying the bracha of Asher Nasan Lanu, and he was then remembered right away prior to saying the words Bracha to Hashem, then he is right away to say Asher Bachar Banu, meaning he doesn't have to repeat again Baruch Atah Hashem that he commenced with, and is simply to correct the stanza of Asher Nasan Lanu to Asher Bachar Banu and conclude the blessing. If, however, he said it very quickly and before he had a chance to correct him, he was already in Baruch Atah Hashem Noisan Atayra, then in such a case we rule that he fulfills his obligation and is not required to repeat the correct bracha of Asher Bachar Banu. In other words, we rule that if Asher Nasan Lanu was said by mistake prior to the Torah reading, even though in general it's meant to be said after the Torah reading, it remains valid. So is the ruling of the Magen Avram, the Pri Megadim, the Orach HaChaim, the Mishnah Brura, Ktsois HaShulchan, and others. And while there are poskim who argue and rule that he is not Yaitse and the blessings are not flexible to be interchanged, and he therefore must repeat the blessing of Asher Bachar Banu, so rules the Maril and the Aliyah Rabbah, nonetheless, practically, the final ruling follows, as we said, that the blessing is not to be repeated. However, in such a case, the above poskim rule that by his conclusion of the Aliyah, instead of saying the bracha of Asher Nasan Lanu, which he would normally say, since he already said this by the before reading blessing, therefore by the after reading blessing, he is instead to say the bracha of Asher Bachar Banu. Now, what if here too he made a mistake and said his normal after blessing of Asher Nasan Lanu, and it ends up that Asher Nasan Lanu was said twice by the before and after reading, and Asher Bachar Banu was never said? Then although some poskim rule that it's no good and he must repeat the blessing of Asher Bachar Banu, practically Safek Brachas Lahakil, and we rule that it is not to be repeated. Now let's turn to if the before blessing was said fine, he said the blessing of Asher Bachar Banu, and now by the after blessing of the Aliyah, he accidentally recited Asher Bachar Banu again instead of the correct nusach of Asher Nasan Lanu. So here too, if he did not yet say Hashem's name in the concluding stanza of the blessing, he is to go back and correct himself with the words of Asher Nasan Lanu. If, however, he already said Hashem's name, he already said Baruch Atah Hashem, then if he remembered right away, he is to simply continue and say Elokeinu melech ha'olam Asher Nasan Lanu, meaning use that conclusion of the blessing to restart the blessing of Asher Nasan Lanu. If, however, he already concluded the blessing and he said Baruch Atah Hashem Noisan Atayra, then he must repeat it from the beginning. So rules the Orach HaChaim, the Mishnah Brura, the Ktsois HaShulchan, and others. In other words, that while the before blessing of Asher Bachar Banu is flexible, and if you said Asher Nasan Lanu it's valid, the after blessing of Asher Nasan Lanu is not flexible, and if you said the blessing of Asher Bachar Banu, you do not fulfill your obligation. And while there are poskim who argue, this is the main approach to be followed, although those who rule that you should not repeat the blessing certainly have upon whom to rely. So to summarize the halacha, if by either the before or after blessing you began saying the wrong blessing, and you remembered right away, then fix yourself and start saying the correct blessing. If it was too late, and you already said the concluding blessing of Baruch to Hashem Neisen Atayra, then by the before blessing, you fulfill your obligation if you accidentally said Asher Nasan Lanu, and in such a case, by the after blessing, you are to say the before blessing of Asher Bachar Banu. However, if by the after blessing, you accidentally said Asher Bachar Banu instead of Nasan Lanu, and it ends up that you said the blessing Asher Bachar Banu for both the before and after blessing, then that after blessing is no good, and you must repeat the blessing Asher Nasan Lanu from the beginning in such a case. The best advice to avoid all of these problems is to always have a paper with the blessings in front of the Oila, and if necessary, have the Gabbai or the person next to him point to the correct blessing to be said at this time. This is especially necessary by people who are not as educated as others, and also due to the intimidation that many people have from being called by the public for the reading and get mixed up with the blessings.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many Sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.